If you could speak to the architects of tomorrow, being the future leaders of design, what would you tell them?
Obviously, students are looking at all this chat GPT and AI, and all these things will be old in a decade. And so yeah, future students, the thing about it is, like the hand, I sort of heard this in some podcast or something, maybe it was a documentary. They're talking about the hand sort of having this, and there's some wonderful books about the hand by like Frank Wilson. Just this thing is so hard to replicate, especially through digital things. I mean, sure, people are making artificial hands and stuff, but what our hands can do are amazing. And we have to, the way we feel things, it's the way we've sort of developed our minds over the years, how we understand how things work, the kind of capacity of things, materiality, lightness and heaviness. It is so important that you can't forget about it. And that hybridity, if I were to sum it up in one word, it's hybridity. It's like, how do you take the analog and the digital and keep letting those things work? I'll give you an example. Like, let's just say the future is laser cutting, which is a huge waste of materials, and 3D printing, right? Which is a different way. There is, very, very little waste. Two different types, you're working with different materiality. But anyway, when these things come out of the machine, students think that they're finished. I got it. I'm going to put this so finished that they sometimes don't sand off the burning of the edges or bother to paint the thing. They just leave the burned charred edges of a laser cut piece. With 3D printing, you come out with this finished thing. And why would I change this? And so an example would be of this hybridity is to say, well, you know what? I'm going to print these things, but then I'm going to transform them with my own hands. I'm going to kind of use them as, these are a good generator, but now how do I really refine this? Yeah, just that sort of thing, right? Like same thing with our drawings. Like, do we let the thing render, but then do we begin to cut and splice in other, graft in other types of media to give a more rich, because ultimately when we look at that glossy rendering, we're just looking at a glossy postcard, glossy photograph, right? It's not that informative. It's trying to show fake light, fake shadow, fake people. But like ultimately I had one professor who would say, like, you make that in the computer, every software engineer, you don't own any of it, right? You let them do the work, right? Yeah. They enabled you to build the model, do the rendering. Who owns it? So this idea, fine, you get a rendering, you have some kind of drawing, whatever it is. But as soon as you go in and start to touch it, you start to take ownership of it. And there are these different layers of information that begin to come forward or be pushed back, right? Like you have control over that. So anyway, all these things we can do digitally, they don't stop there. That's the thing. I think once then your hands go in, you start to touch it. It's not so much information you did in a computer and it spat it out. That information is now traveling back up through your arms and your fingertips and changing the way you might think about this building or how you might want to convey it. But yeah, so to me, all that's hybridity, right?
Yeah.
Just trying to leverage both ends of the analog digital spectrum.
Yeah, that's really cool because I think, some people are either like one or the other. Like, so I like how you explained how both can work together. So that's really nice. So thank you so much for being on the show today and just spending time on the podcast. I was so intrigued by all your stories today. And yeah, I hope you have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for inviting me. It was a real treat to hear the questions and have a chance to talk about some of this stuff.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, bye.